Hello and welcome to Shoot the Hostage with me, Dan, and my partner, Sarah. We're a movie podcast who talks about a different film each week based on a theme. We do swear and we do spoil the featured movie, so only ever listen if you've seen the film or you don't care too much about spoilers. If you're a regular listener, you can just skip forward until you hear the intro music because you've heard all of this before. But if you are new to the show and you do enjoy what you hear, there are a couple of things you can do to help support the show. Firstly, make sure that you're subscribed on your podcast player so you get notified when new shows drop on Mondays. You could rate us 5 stars on Spotify, which couldn't be easier. You just hit the star icon below the show's artwork. Or if you have a spare few minutes, we'd love it if you could submit a review wherever you listen. Make sure you come follow us at STH_pod on social media. We are active on Instagram, Threads and TikTok. And lastly, the biggest thing you can do to help is tell a friend about the show. So that's about it. That's enough preamble from me. Over to me and Sarah for this week's episode. Right, we're back. It's a brand new theme. It's a brand new season.
Mm-hmm.
It's a brand new year.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's 2025, Sarah.
Well,
for the listener.
Yeah. We're still in the thick of build up to Christmas, technically.
Yeah.
But yeah, by the time this goes out, that's crazy.
Yes, I
We're
know.
so organised.
Well, I know. I couldn't be more excited for this one. I'll be honest with you. I think at the end of our last main feed episode, what was it? Almost Famous.
Yep.
You coined a phrase from coming of age to coming of cage.
Yeah.
So we've got 8 Nicolas Cage movies to go through.
Which is like, what, 0.2% of his filmography?
It was so hard to get it down to 8.
Yeah, I bet.
There are a few that I was considering, which we'll probably go through in a wrap show in 8-9 weeks' time.
Well, we've already covered 2 Nick Cage films unintentionally.
Yeah. Which were?
Dream Scenario.
Yeah.
And Con Air. Both your seasons.
Oh, they were both. You're right. So at the end of this season, we would have covered 10 Nicolas Cage films in total.
All chosen by you.
Yeah. Brilliant.
You're sitting there in your Nicolas and the Cages fake band t-shirt as well.
My new favourite apparel.
Apparel?
Apparel? Yeah. T-shirt. Never coming off.
Never?
This is remaining on my persons at all times.
Oh, that's going to get stinky.
No, because I'm going to buy multiple of the same T-shirt and just have each, like, wash one and then wear one and then wash one and wear one.
You're going to be that guy.
Yeah, I'm going to be the guy that wears Nicolas and the Cage's band T-shirt guy.
Until you find a better Nicolas Cage t-shirt.
I don't think... Have you seen this Nicolas Cage T-shirt?
I'm looking at it right now.
I don't think you can improve upon this.
It is perfection, yeah. You're correct.
Yeah. It was super difficult to whittle it down to 8 movies. Today we're covering Vampire's Kiss from 1988.
Oh, we sure are.
So I thought we would start with that one because I had an idea of doing this one in chronological order, in terms of when the movie was released.
Mm-hmm.
Never done that before, but I thought it would be appropriate and fun to do it for an actor season. It's our first actor season.
Yeah.
Haven't done that before. A little bit different.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I've been going through his filmography for the last couple of weeks and managed to get it down to 8. If you want to see that full lineup, then it's available on our Patreon as a free member. You don't have to be a paying member, but if you want to see it, it's over there.
But we'd like you more if you were.
Well, yeah, of course. We'd like you more if you paid us.
Not that there's any sort of favouritism going on, but if there were.
Yeah.
Okay, so this one is first because this is chronological and this is 1988?
Yeah, 1988.
But what made you choose the film itself?
I'll start with a theme. So I wanted to do an actor theme because we've not done one before. And when I was thinking about it, a Nicolas Cage popped into my head.
As he often does.
Daily. That was it. I was like, okay, well, it has to, because he's such a fascinating and interesting performer.
Yeah.
And there are so many to choose from. And I could have gone earlier than Vampire's Kiss.
Mm-hmm.
There's loads that I haven't seen. I haven't seen Moonstruck, for example.
Okay.
But I wanted to start with this one because I'd never seen it. So this was a first time watch for me.
For me also.
Yeah.
I thought I'd seen it.
Right.
Boy, was I wrong.
You'd remember it if you've seen it.
I would absolutely have remembered it, yeah.
You're not forgetting this movie in a hurry.
No. Seared into my memory.
I chose it mostly because of the reputation. I wanted to... There are some peculiar choices in this Nicolas Cage lineup, and it's maybe not what you'd expect, but because it's in chronological order as well, I wanted to cover kind of the range of his type of movies. And because this is one that I've never seen, and it's the one that it gets referenced a lot, it's been memed to death.
It has.
I was fascinated. And I don't know, I always wanted to get round to it, but I guess I was a little bit resistant because I thought it was going to be a certain thing. Even though Cage is the most unpredictable actor of all time, I was still a bit like, I've got an idea of what this is going to be.
So what did you think it was going to be?
I just thought it was going to be like a silly horror movie where someone is turning into a vampire.
It's not that.
It's
of a fashion.
It's not that though, is it?
Yeah.
it's so bizarre. It's so much weirder and more glorious than I could have imagined. I was not expecting what we got.
No. I was unprepared also.
Yeah.
Yeah. Vastly unprepared.
Well, before we get our teeth stuck into the movie.
Oh, see what you did there.
I'm going to attempt to, on each episode, find 3 facts about Nicolas Cage, confirm that they are actually correct, hopefully from the horse's mouth.
Okay.
In this case, the horse being Nicolas Cage.
The man himself, yeah.
Yeah.
I imagine that's quite difficult to do because there must be so much floating around that's absolute bollocks, but sounds like it could be true.
Yeah.
And the inverse must be true as well. Like there must be so much that's wildly nonsensical, but is actual fact.
Yeah. It's going to be one, like if you did a Would I Lie to You and you did 3 Nicolas Cage facts.
Impossible.
Impossible to tell which one's which one's true and which one's fake. So yeah, I'm going to try and find 24 facts that are actual facts and not just internet nonsense.
Okay.
3 per episode, so I've got 3 here for this one just to get us going. Now a lot of it, I imagine, if you're a film fan, you probably know a lot of these already, but just to sort of wet our Cage
our whistles.
Wet our Cage whistles. So you know Nicolas Cage is a Coppola.
Yep.
He changed his name from Coppola to Cage. Do you know why he did that?
Because he went forward in time and saw Megalopolis and thought, I don't want to be associated with this bag of shit. And then went back in time and changed his name.
Yes, that's exactly.
Is it?
Yeah,
am I right?
That's exactly why. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. Right. So he went to high school with Paulie Shaw.
Did he?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
We're treating that first one as fact, by the way.
No. No. Why did he change his name?
No, that's why.
Why did he change his name?
It was on Fast Times at Ridgemont High. I think the cast were giving him a bit of grief because he's a Coppola, like nepotism. You only got a job because of your Uncle Frank and all of that stuff. But I like your theory about Megalopolis way more. So I'm saying let's stick with that.
It was 3 decades before the term Nepo baby was even coined.
Yeah.
Okay. He was barely even in Fast Times.
Yeah, I know. He flipped a burger. Well, he was meant to play the Judge Reinhold role.
Was he?
Yeah. Fuck, I should have saved that for another fact.
You should.
Yeah, he was meant to play that role, but he wasn't old enough and couldn't do the hours required on set. So they bumped him down to Burger Guy.
Burger Flipper number 2.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So he went to high school with Paulie Shaw, you say?
He went to high school with Paulie Shaw, yeah. And they were neighbours in Las Vegas during the pandemic. So can you...
Oh my God.
Can you imagine the parties, can't you? Paulie Shaw and Nicolas Cage.
No, I'm not imagining parties.
What are you imagining then?
I'm imagining the 2 of them just running around the streets yelling things whilst wearing dressing gowns and just...
Like, wheeze the juice.
Yeah.
And I'll be back.
No, wheezing the juice.
Which, incidentally, was one of our... before we chose the name Shoot a Hostage, Wheeze the Juice was one of the titles that we were like, maybe we'll call ourselves Wheezing the Juice.
I'm kind of glad we shit-canned that in hindsight.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, a little bit.
Oh, I'd been happy with it.
Would you?
Don't get me wrong, I'm happy with our name now, but like Wheeze and the Juice,
It was fun.
we'd have to say it. Welcome to Wheeze and the Juice all the time. It's such a bizarre word. People think you're crazy.
Yeah.
What's your podcast called? Oh, Wheeze and the Juice.
What's that about?
What does that mean?
Couldn't tell you. Okay, so neighbours during the pandemic. Interesting. God, can you imagine if they had to like isolate together? I would say they would both go insane, but we might already be there.
I'd watch that show.
Oh yeah,
For sure.
That's like
Rumours.
I'm not a fan of reality TV. However, if you pitched something like that, I'm all in.
If you'd told me in 1996, when I just watched The Rock for the 37th time, that in 30 years' time, you're going to think that Nicolas Cage is more insane than Pauly Shore, I'd have thought you were insane.
Yeah.
Honestly. Because
I bet Pauly Shore's really boring.
Yeah, probably.
Go on, what's the third fact?
So I got one more fact for you. And
Yep.
you probably know this, but he once owned, and may still own, I haven't confirmed that, but he once owned a two-headed snake.
I did not know that. A live two-headed snake,
a
or
live-
like a taxidermy one?
No, a real live breathing two-headed snake.
You know, when you said all of this stuff is coming from the horse's mouth,
Yeah.
do we know that he's not trolling us?
We can't be certain. I just have to take him at face value.
Okay, yeah.
But the interesting thing, he's such an interesting guy, and you'll understand, like, if you're going to pick an actor to choose and talk about 8 of their movies, there's so much to talk about with this guy. But
Oh no, I get it.
he, with the snake thing, he said that he had a dream about a two-headed eagle, and the very next day, someone called him saying that they know someone that is selling a two-headed snake. So the Cage was like, "Kismet, I will take that two-headed snake off your hands." And I love the idea of someone going, "Here, I've got a two-headed snake. Know anyone that wants to buy one?" And the person going, "Yeah, I know a guy."
I mean, he's going to be the first person you think of, right?
Yeah. If you're a trader, you've got to have Nicolas Cage's number.
Oh yeah, he's number one in everybody's Rolodex. If you trade in weird items,
Yeah. Rolodex. There's a Rolodex in this movie.
there is. Yeah,
Yeah.
maybe that's why it's in my head.
Yeah.
Two-headed eagle. I mean, a two-headed eagle is the natural predator of a two-headed snake. So, what does that all mean?
I don't know.
Don't think too hard about it. We've a ways to go yet. Don't burn out on that question.
Okay. I wonder how many of my 24 Nicolas Cage facts over the next 8 weeks are going to be two-headed animal related.
Well, I'm hoping just one.
If it was anyone else, I'd be surprised that there's even one. But if it's him, I'd think maybe there's more than one. He's got a two-headed goat, like two-headed sandworm or something.
Sandworm?
Yeah, like the June things.
They're not real, darling.
Oh, what?
No, move on.
Okay. Should we talk about Vampire's Kiss then?
Yeah.
All right.
We better had.
Do you remember the other night when we sat down and we watched Vampire's Kiss for the first time and our brains exploded?
I do. It's indelibly marked on my soul. That film is, honestly, I was so convinced I'd seen it already, which is baffling. Like, I've seen that meme, that image of him doing the wide eyes, which is hilarious in itself. I've seen that meme more times than I can count, hundreds of times. And I didn't know it came from this film.
Yeah.
And I don't know why I'd convinced myself that I'd watched it. And I wish I'd seen it 20 years earlier.
Yeah.
So that I could have been enjoying it this whole time.
I'm kind of regretful of that, yeah. I wish I'd seen it earlier for sure. But I don't think I would have appreciated it. But anyway, that's part of my whole conclusion of it. So we'll talk about that later.
Okay.
Little bit about the production then. So in 1986, writer Joseph Minion wrote this while he was on holiday as a response to his toxic relationship at the time.
Oh, shit.
Later, his partner came on as producer
Oh, no.
in the movie, but was horrified when they saw it, and eventually they split up during the production. So I don't know.
Oh, my God.
I thought when I was watching it, I got very strong vibes about toxic relationship situations, and then when I read that, I was like, oh yeah, okay, that was obviously really intentional.
Holy shit. He Ari Astered his partner.
What do you mean?
Midsummer.
Oh, because that was a toxic relationship.
Well, it was written after a breakup.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
Oh, I did not know that.
Okay.
We'll definitely get to that at some point.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. At some point as well, this part was offered to Dennis Quaid.
Really?
Yeah. But Quaid dropped out to pursue Inner Space.
Oh, good work.
So if that's what got Inner Space greenlit, I'm happy about that.
Yeah.
You can't have Dennis Quaid in this movie.
No, no way.
I think this movie is not very good with Dennis Quaid.
I think it wouldn't be talked about now.
I don't think it would be anything.
We wouldn't be here.
No, I don't think
about
so.
It. Do you know who else was considered? This sounds like bullshit, but there were a few names that I read sprinkled online. They all sound fake, but I'll leave it to you. So the first one that I read is that Judd Nelson was considered for this role.
I hate it.
But same thing as Quaid, we wouldn't be talking about it. If Judd Nelson was in this role, nobody would remember Vampire's Kiss. Some other names, which sound fake, but hear me out.
Jeff Goldblum.
No Jeff Goldblum. John Travolta.
Oh, I hate it.
Sly.
Oh, no. Not Sly.
And Arnie.
What is that? I hate...
That's just everybody who was somebody in the 80s.
Yeah. No, you can't have Sly or Arnie.
No.
I guess, like, what would happen is that if those guys had come onto this project, then it wouldn't be what it is. It would be something entirely different. You
can bet your bottom dollar none of them would have eaten a cockroach.
No, absolutely not. I've got one more little tidbit for you on a production of this movie, right? So, did you know that Nicolas Cage actually wanted a real bat in this movie? He actually sent his assistant to Central Park to try and find one.
That's how you get rabies.
I thought he was going to say that's how you get a bat.
No, that's how you get rabies.
Well, I think that's what director Robert Bierman had said to Nicolas Cage, you know, if you get bitten, you could die.
Yeah.
So he changed his mind and he was fine with using a rubber thing on strings.
It didn't look it didn't look great.
I was fine with it.
Wow. Yeah, I'm not at all surprised that he wanted a real bat. Not at all surprised.
Of course he did. He ate a real fucking bug in this movie.
Yeah. Not just once.
I've got a little note on that.
Oh, God. We'll get to it. Ugh. I don't know if you can see in my notes. I just wrote the word cockroach and then a picture of a little man throwing up.
Okay. I can't see that from here, no.
It looks like Cole Pilkington.
Oh, does it?
Yeah,
an annoying Mancunian. What? You're not an annoying Mancunian. All the time.
I'm barely a Mancunian anymore.
Yeah, exactly. You're a posh one anyway.
Nah.
The budget on this was $2 million and it grossed $725,000 at the box office. So shat the bed.
Yeah.
I'm not surprised.
How would you sell this movie? What had Nick Cage done up to this point? He wasn't very well known, was he?
Well, he was in that Moonstruck, wasn't he? So he would have been. He definitely would have been in.
Yeah, that was pretty popular, I suppose. Is that the Cher one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've got no idea. I've got no idea what that movie is. Just looking on a Letterboxd series, first credit is a movie in 1980 called Brubaker, which is it's a Robert Redford joint. He's not very high up in the cast, so it must be a small part. After that, he's credited on something called The Best of Times. Don't know what that is.
No.
But then it's into Fast Times. And then he did a movie called The Outsiders.
Oh, yeah, of
which
course.
I'm not familiar with, but it sounds
Wait,
like
what?
you know this?
You don't know this?
No.
The Outsiders.
Yeah, I know. I said the title at you. If you repeat it, I'm not going to suddenly have watched it.
I thought maybe my shock might jog your memory.
No, I've not seen it. Has it got Jean-Claude Van Damme in it?
Well, it doesn't, no, but it's a Francis Ford Coppola movie.
Okay, well, I've seen one Francis Ford Coppola movie this year, so
that was definitely one too many.
Last year, if you're listening.
Oh, yeah.
In the new year, which it is now, definitely.
But yeah, it's like C. Thomas Howell, Matt Dillon, Ralph Macchio.
Oh, the Karate Kid's in it. Macchio.
Yep. Rob Lowe, Patrick Swayze, Emilio Estevez, your guy.
Oh, well, now
Tom Cruise. You know that picture of Tom Cruise where his teeth are all wonky?
No.
It's always in like the before and afters.
No.
That's The still that's always used is from The Outsiders.
Oh, right. Did he have his teeth done, did he?
Yeah. Everybody in Hollywood gets their teeth done.
Yeah, I suppose so.
But yeah, really well-known film.
Well, like I said, there's so much. He's done loads, and there's 142 here on Letterboxd is he's credited to.
That seems low.
If I've seen half of them, I'll be amazed. Valley Girl, never seen it. Rumblefish, never seen it. Raising Arizona, I think I might have seen that.
That's a Coen Brothers movie. You must have seen it.
I might have. If I have, I was like 11, and I don't really remember it.
It's not bad.
Yeah, I'm sure it's good, yeah.
Peggy Sue Got Married was 86.
Yep, not seen that either.
It's another Coppola.
All right.
So he kind of is a Nepo baby. Like, despite the name change, it does sort of seem like Francis Ford Coppola is kind of responsible for unleashing Nick Cage onto the world.
Yeah.
So he's not all bad.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. Definitely seems like there was some nepotism going on early on in his career.
Yeah, of course, there is in everything. You'd be a plumber and your kid's going to carry on a family business. It's just how things work. If you're good though, Nicolas Cage is one of the best. As long as you're making the most of your opportunities, I think that's okay.
Yeah, agreed.
Question for you then.
Mm-hmm.
How would you categorise this movie? Having watched it for the first time the other night, and as I said, when we scooped up our brains off the carpet and put them back into our head.
Yep.
What did you think? How would your immediate response? You're thinking, right, what box is this going to go into in my brain? How am I going to categorise this? What did you think?
Well, there was no immediate thought after I finished watching this, in all honesty. I think it wiped my brain clean for a while. But if I had to categorise it, I mean, comedy, right?
Yeah.
Comedy, horror comedy?
I think if you don't immediately think this is a comedy, then you're insane. This is clearly a comedy. It has to be.
Yes, but I didn't know it was a comedy going into it.
And neither did
I was surprised.
Me too.
So there was a moment in the first sort of third where I was like, is this intentional?
Yeah.
I was unsure because sometimes it is hard to tell with Nick Cage, let's be honest.
Yeah, I think, the first few frames, the first act, perhaps, you might be questioning, going, what is this? There's a certain scene where in the third act that leads up to the third act, actually, where I'm like, oh, yeah, this one scene kind of defines this whole thing for me. And we'll get to that.
Okay.
I've got a list of scenes that I want to go through with you.
Oh, great.
But I think, it's undeniably a comedy. If I'd have seen this in 1988 when I was 4 years old, I wouldn't have understood what was going on.
You should not have seen this at 4.
No, I wouldn't have appreciated it. But even if I'd have seen it when I was 14, 15, 20 even, I don't know if really I would have fully appreciated what it was.
Yeah, that's fair. I don't think I would either.
So when the movie starts then, it's a bit jarring, isn't it? Because he's immediately doing an accent.
Yeah, I was pretty unsure about the accent at first because it's a little bit Trump.
It's Trumpian.
It's Trumpian with like a tinge of transatlantic.
Yeah.
Like there are some English kind of lilts in there.
Bit of kind of Kelsey Grammer situation.
Yeah.
Which, interestingly enough, David Hyde Pierce is in this movie. Did you catch him?
No.
Yeah.
Where is he?
He's in.
Is he the Bat?
He's the Bat. Yeah, he plays the
Right.
Bat.
Okay.
And that's how Kelsey Grammer, he saw him flying as the Bat in this movie and was like, oh, I think you could play my brother in a thing. We're going to call it Fraser.
Yeah. No, who was he?
He was the Bat.
Who was he?
No, he was in a bar in a background scene.
Oh, right.
Just before Peter Lowe's, who is Nick Cage's character, just before he meets Rachel.
Right.
I think they'd just gone to the theatre, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's in the background for that scene.
Interesting.
I've got another question for you.
Do you like questions?
Why do you think there were 2 mimes in one of the scenes? In 2 scenes? In 2 frames? Whatever. There twice we saw 2 mimes.
Yeah.
Why?
I don't really have a good answer for you. Is there a right or a wrong answer?
No.
It was funny.
I guess.
It was bizarre.
As we discussed in The Warriors show,
yeah,
mimes are the most terrifying thing that you can imagine.
Yeah.
Maybe that?
Was it the gang of mimes? It is New York, isn't it?
Yeah.
Maybe they were the same mimes.
Do you reckon that's... Because The Warriors, you explained to me, is sci-fi and it's set in the future, right? In The Warriors show.
Well, no, that's not canon. That's my theory.
Let's say that that's canon.
So it's set in 1988.
So they are the very first members of the mime gang in The Warriors.
Okay. Yeah, I like it.
Cool. Because the director didn't have a fucking clue why they were there.
Really?
So there wasn't really an answer to that question. I just wanted to... Because I saw it. I saw the mimes and I was like, that's random. Unsurprised, because this movie is full of that's random.
It is, but it's also full of really intentional stuff too.
Yeah.
The opening credits, for example, kind of tracks over the high rises of New York. And immediately, because it's a vampire movie, I was just like, ooh, loads of pointy buildings like fangs.
Okay.
Which is interesting because your first instinct was, they look like dicks. Which I guess gives you a glimpse into both of our psyches.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then there's the moment where I think is it Rachel? Is that Jennifer Beals' character?
Yeah.
Where she's leading him up the stairs and there's the shadow, like the lighting creates a shadow behind them and it's very Nosferatu.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there is some really kind of careful, intentional stuff in here as well.
I think you're right. I think this movie is probably way more thought out than you would think.
Yeah.
Like there are a lot of random scenes in this. You could look at it in isolation. You know, if you just watched a 12-second clip on TikTok or whatever of his alphabet speech, for example, you go, what the fuck is going on? But then when you watch it in the movie,
you're still like, what the fuck is going on?
That was a bad example.
Yeah.
I can't fully explain what's going on there.
But I think we're both right.
Yeah.
I think there's some very intentional filmmaking going on and also a bunch of random shit because even the mimes in context, what the fuck?
I had no idea, and I heard a director say, I didn't really know what was going on there either. So I don't know. They had access to some mimes and they were like, well, we might as well put them in the movie.
Yeah, why not? Why not? Did you hear much? Because you're the one out of the two of us who normally watches like the director's commentary, but we didn't have access to one this time.
No.
So
sadly not.
Did you get to hear much from John Bierman?
I heard some clips on YouTube because
Robert Bierman. Where did I get John from?
I don't know. I heard some clips on YouTube. I think there was like 7 minutes of clips or something, but the commentary is available on a DVD, possibly the Blu-ray, but it's kind of expensive to buy it and kind of hard to get hold of. So we watched it. We streamed it on Cheers Jeff on Prime, but it's definitely one that I would like to procure. I'm desperate to watch that full commentary. That's all I will say.
I bet you are.
But unfortunately, if you're expecting an answer to that mime question, it's not on there.
No.
So I haven't got a clue.
He's had a strange career, hasn't he? Because I did have a quick look at his filmography. This was his first feature film.
Okay.
I did read somewhere that at some point he wanted to direct the remake of The Fly, obviously the remake of the 1950s Fly.
The one that Cronenberg did? I
don't know if it's like a remake was definitely going to happen and it was shopped around or what, because it seems so Cronenbergy. Like I can't imagine that any other way now. But yeah, at one point he was sort of set to direct a remake. But instead he pivoted and directed episodes of The Bill and Holby City. Naturally.
English staples of garbage television. Listen, like if he made his career doing that and he's fine with that, then maybe I don't think this was necessarily the easiest movie to make.
God, no.
So it's possible that you make this movie with Nicolas Cage and then go, I'm never
out.
doing this again.
Weird fucker just ate a cockroach. I'm done.
I'm gonna stay in rainy England where I know what's gonna happen, and we can just make Silent Witness for 30 years.
Yeah, I think that's the coward's way out, personally, but sure.
I
hope Robert Bierman's happy.
I'm sure, but I would like to have seen what else he would have done, because I think this is as weird and seemingly, as I said, random some things are in this. I do think it's very well made. I think it's very interesting. I think it's trying to say a lot in an unusual way, and something it's unlike anything I've ever seen. And it's so rare you can say that.
Yeah,
it's so rare.
Do you know what it reminded me of in some capacity?
Lobotomy? But in a good way.
Close. Do you remember that Abel Ferrara vampire movie, The Addiction?
Yeah. Was there a fireplace in it?
Possibly, yeah.
Yeah. I remember, yeah.
That's the thing you remember. There was a fireplace. No, I think it was either early or mid 90s, and it was all black and white, and it starred Lily Taylor, but it was very much heavy-handed metaphor for drug addiction, vampirism as allegory, which it often is. Vampirism's been used as an allegory for drug addiction many times.
Yeah, I was thinking about the metaphor, and I think also maybe like as a metaphor for toxic relationships.
Well, yeah, that certainly sounds more intentional from the writer's perspective from what you said.
Yeah, totally.
That's not something that occurred to me.
Well, I thought about it when I was watching it, and when he meets Rachel, she's jealous, she's trying to sort of control him. Obviously, we'll talk about what's in his mind and what isn't, perhaps later on.
Yeah.
But yeah, from his perspective, she's controlling, she's jealous. There's a point in it where, and again, we'll get to this later as well, when Lowe is looking in the mirror and he can't see himself. So he's kind of losing his own identity, is what I thought about that. And, when you kind of tied to somebody else who's controlling and manipulative, you're losing yourself in a way. Like I saw that as a kind of a metaphor. And I'm sure all of this was intentional by Joseph Minion.
Certainly sounds like it, yeah. During the watching of it, I definitely sort of took it as a drug addiction metaphor, especially because of the job that he's in, the lifestyle that he has, kind of working all day, bossing people around, wearing flash suits, going out to bars and whining and dining in the evenings.
Women by talking about Fantastic Four.
Yeah.
Because whenever you talk
works
about...
every time.
You go out, right? When I was in my youth, and I used to go out and I used to meet women in bars, and I would talk at them about Fantastic Four, their clothes would disintegrate immediately. Yeah. And they would say, please come back home with me.
Yeah, it's effective.
It's such an aphrodisiac. Thanks, Stanley. It's crazy, it's crazy how many people want to sleep with this man, isn't it?
It's insane.
He's the most insane person I've ever seen on screen. There's no way. He's a walking red flag.
Yeah, but we've mentioned him once already in this episode, and we're just going to continue to drive a wedge between us and some of our American audience. But look at Trump.
Yeah.
He's insane.
Yeah.
But he's larger than life. People love a character. I think you really underestimate the draw of a character.
All right.
I'm not going to call it charisma.
Because it's not.
No. But that larger than life personality does draw people in.
Yeah.
So I can sort of see it in a way. It doesn't do anything for me. I don't know. The Fantastic Four stuff might have worked though.
Yeah.
So yeah, with the lifestyle that he leads, maybe this is very narrow-minded of me, but I sort of associate that job and lifestyle with cocaine use.
What, that high-pressure job of being a literary agent?
Yeah. He needs the contract, Dan.
I don't know, man. The drug thing didn't ever occur to me. I mean, it's an 80s movie about a yuppie, right? So you think, wherever there's that phrase in New York, you're never more than like a meter away from a rat or whatever.
Yeah.
I think the more accurate way to describe New York would be you're never more than half a meter away from a line of cocaine in the 80s.
Yeah. So, very, very 80s specific.
Yeah, it's not, I didn't see it, but I can see how you got there.
That's not my ultimate theory though. Okay,
well... have you got a theory?
I do.
Is there a reading of this film then that you... Because I think this is one of those movies, I think, that you could have multiple... We've already discussed a couple.
Yeah.
Me with toxic relationships, you with the drug addiction.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that there's a right answer.
No.
And I've watched a lot of Nicolas Cage interviews. I've got another 7 weeks of doing that. Thank you, God, baby Jesus, because it's brilliant. But he, a lot of the time, when people ask him questions about what something means in his film, he's usually saying, well, what did you think? He's a bit of a Lynchian kind of answer, I guess. He won't answer what he thinks it is because he wants you to figure it out. And I think this is maybe one of the most Nick Cage movies where I'm like, there could be multiple readings on this. Have you got another one then?
Yes.
What is it?
I think he's got rabies. Hear me out.
Okay. Please proceed to present your argument.
My thesis is thus. There was the bat. He got bitten by a bat and he's got rabies. That's it.
The bat. Oh, the bat.
That's my theory.
Played by David Hyde Pierce.
Yes.
Right.
David Hyde Pierce bit him.
Yeah.
Gave him rabies.
Okay.
Yeah. And he kind of disintegrates. His sanity leaves him throughout the movie.
So he gets bitten by the bat.
Mm-hmm.
He receives rabies from said bat.
He receives it. Yeah.
And then he slowly starts to go mad.
Yeah.
So in your reading of it then, so before he gets bitten by the bat, he's perfectly sane and normal.
I didn't say that.
Okay.
Don't put words in my mouth.
All right. And then it all starts to unravel from there.
Yeah.
Did he get bitten by the bat?
We don't know.
I don't think he did.
All I know is that I need somebody who's more computer savvy to take a clip of him trying to swat the bat around in his apartment and superimpose the dialogue from that Irish meme over the top. Derry, get him!
Right. I see. Yeah, you showed me that one months before. Not difficult. We could do that in about 12 seconds, I think.
Okay.
Right, if you want to do that.
It's up to you. The challenge, if you choose to accept it. No, yeah, I'm sticking with it, rabies, because it's fucking horrible. I've seen videos of people like after they've been bitten by an animal that's given them rabies.
I don't know anything about rabies.
Oh, it's horrifying. Honestly, probably one of the worst fates imaginable. But like in the beginning, you sort of suffer from headache, weakness, discomfort, itching, that sort of stuff. Relatively mild. And then it devolves into like anxiety, confusion, delirium, hallucinations, which he definitely has.
Yeah, he definitely is hallucinating some things in this.
Yeah. Just general agitation, muscle spasms. I don't know, man. I think it explains a lot of his more erratic behaviour in the back end of the movie. I'm sticking with it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't hate that theory. I think I don't buy it personally, but I can see how you got there.
Do you have any alternate theories?
I don't have any really well constructed and thought through theories, but I had a thought.
Okay.
So towards the end of the movie, when they're in the nightclub, and I've got a list of scenes, which I mentioned before,
yeah,
we'll get to. And maybe I'll go into that scene a bit more then. But in the nightclub, he meets Rachel again.
Yeah.
And Lowe's is like, oh, hello, Rachel, nice to see you, sort of thing. And she goes, I'm with Donald.
And she's not got fangs.
And she's not got fangs. That's interesting. Yeah, I watched it again today. That scene in the club I watched a couple of times and still framed on Jennifer Beals. Jennifer Beals, easy mistake to make. And yeah, I looked to see when she had fangs and when she didn't, because I think that's obviously a clue about what he's hallucinating and what he's not hallucinating. But when she said, oh no, I'm with Donald, part of me was like, are they running a con on Peter Lowe? Another reading of this film I thought is he met Rachel in a club. They enter into a toxic relationship. She begins to control him. They rob his money. And then he's left with nothing, because when he tries to buy those expensive fangs, which we'll talk about in my list of seats, he hasn't got as much money as he thought, and he keeps, he pays for the cab, and he's like, I haven't got any money left, and at some point he seems to have run out of all of that, huge literary agency cash that was around in the 1980s.
Coke problem.
Also, Coke problem. You're right. Yeah. Yeah, you're right.
That shit's not cheap.
But I don't know. It was it's not, like I said, it was not an entirely fleshed out thought, but I just had that. It just popped into my head when we saw them, and I thought, there's probably a reading on this film when they could be conning him. Okay. And could be part of him going insane. Yeah. Like she would be gaslighting him and controlling and whatever, and he's losing his money, and there's a reading of this movie where that would drive a person mad. Yeah. That insane sort of lust and love and whatever, and then she's bleeding him dry.
Oh. I like it. You said you hadn't put much thought into it, but it's all there, I think.
That's one of the things that I think is really great about this, is that you can put kind of any spin on it.
You can put You know what my favourite thing is? You could put no spin on it.
Yeah.
You could just let the craziness wash over you.
This is one that I would happily pay good legal tender to go and watch at the Prince Charles.
Oh, with an audience, yes.
I think this would be just amazing.
With a Q&A afterwards with Nick Cage and everybody throwing plastic fangs at the screen.
Mr. Charles, if you're listening, or Mrs. Charles, please, Vampire's Kiss with a Q&A with Nicolas Cage and a director. If they're both available, let's get them both in a room and talk about this and watch it. Yeah, with the crowd, I think this would be such a great experience. I went to a mystery movie run at the Prince Charles last year, and there was a Nicolas Cage movie, and it wasn't this. And I'm now retroactively disappointed about that.
If it had been this 5 times in a row, would you have been happy?
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought you were going to say that.
Well, when we watched it, the film finished, and I put it on immediately straight away.
Did you?
Yeah. Well, you were in the room.
Oh. We didn't sit there and watch the whole thing again, though, did
No.
you? No.
I was thinking about it, but then I thought no, because I want to watch it on a day that we record again.
What's your take on the scenes with his psychiatrist? Because it seems like he's been going to visit her for a while. They have a familiarity there.
Dr. Glazer. Yeah. I think you're right. I think he's been going there for a while. I think mostly all of their interactions are probably real.
Yeah. Did you know he drops the accent sometimes when he's with her?
Yeah, okay.
Because apparently it was like a very intentional affectation to have this sort of bizarre accent that he would pull out around people he wanted to impress.
Yeah.
I guess. So it comes and goes. I guess my question with the psychiatrist then is, do you think the descent into madness started before anything that we see?
I think it depends on your reading of the movie.
I suppose,
But
yeah. Because I know it's perfectly normal to go and see a shrink and just sort of hash things out every so often. It doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with him psychologically, but he is insane.
There's something wrong with this guy psychologically.
Yeah, he's nuts.
Yeah, I think from frame one he's not of sound mind. I think there's that moment after when he and Jackie go back to his apartment.
Is Jackie Casey Lemons?
Yes.
From Candyman.
From Candyman.
Yeah.
And after they have the meeting with the bat in the room, they leave and they get in a cab. Mm-hmm. And they're quite, it's a night out, they're drunk, it's fun, it's just weird things just happen. And Cage is going, ha 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 ha, like that, really loud.
Yeah.
So I think he's insane from frame one.
God, I wish I'd had time to watch this again.
I love this movie. I think it's magnificent. This might be a yearly watch.
Yeah.
So, don't lament too much that you didn't get to see it a second time this week, because
there will be many more opportunities.
There will be many, 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 many more opportunities. Yeah, for sure.
Is this quickly become one of your favourite comedies then?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I think so.
Well, so what we really need is someone like Arrow or Second Sight to put out a really beefy, juicy edition of this.
Yeah, if Second Sight put this out, I'm signing up day one.
Yeah, pre-order, done.
Yeah.
Limited to one per customer. No.
Yeah.
So I know you have mentioned that you've got a bunch of scenes that you want to talk about, but just before we get to that, do you have any favourite lines? Any favourite lines of dialogue?
Alva! I've got loads, and they are kind of all intertwined with my list of scenes as well that I want to go through. But the one that stuck with me since we watched it, 4 days ago now for the first time, and when I watched it again today and really enjoyed it again, is when he goes, "Am I getting through to you?" And he points at her really aggressively.
Yeah.
Silly. And there's another one later on which I'll talk about in the scenes. But have you got lines then that you want to talk about?
Just a couple. There's one really memorable one that I think he's in a diner.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden he stands up and just goes, "Fucking greasehole." It's the way he says it just killed me.
Yeah.
And also the old lady in the bathroom who speaks for all of us when she just goes, "What the fuck is going on?"
Yeah.
And then runs away.
It's going to be such a quotable movie.
Yes.
I can't wait to have watched this movie for the 100th time and know it beat for beat.
Go on then. What are some scenes that you want to talk about?
As I said, I watched this again for the second time today, and I wanted to know 5 most insane scenes in this movie.
That sounds difficult. You have to narrow it down to 5.
I got an hour in, and I already had my 5. And then it gets to the last 30 minutes.
Holy shit.
So I'm changing it to 10 most insane scenes.
Okay, quick.
Right, okay.
Lay them on me.
And they're mostly in chronological order, but just to start with, because I think the thing that was most identifiable with this movie, that I'd seen this scene before, is the alphabet speech with Dr. Glazer.
Yeah.
I've seen that before. Maybe when I first saw it, I didn't know it was from Vampire's Kiss, and context was lost, and you just think, what the fuck is going on? So I thought that scene was a lot of fun to watch. And then straight after that is where he starts wearing sunglasses in the office.
Yeah.
And he walks along in the office. He picks up a pencil out of a secretary's pencil pot, puts it back, starts walking towards Alva. He finds the secretary has got a rubber duck on her desk, picks it up, drops it on the floor, which kills me. Which kills me. And then that woman, she says to Alva, "Oh, he's so eccentric."
The understatement of the century.
Yeah, but I thought that was interesting and another way of trying to look at toxic behaviour away, but this time in the workplace, because a lot of toxic behaviour might get written off by...
Oh, they're just quirky.
They're just quirky. They're just eccentric. Oh, you are what you get, or whatever that fucking stupid phrase is. What is it that people on Big Brother say? You see what you get, or whatever.
What you see is what you get.
Yeah, that. So you're a cunt then.
Speaking of, there were at least 5 C-bombs in this movie.
I know.
I was shocked.
I was so happy. You never get to hear that in movies, do you?
In American movies, it's rare.
Yeah.
You can tell it had a British director.
Yeah. I wonder if they can't have been in the script. Bierman was just like, look, we're English here. We're going to put some C-bombs in it. Yeah. One of the other memorable scenes from this that's going to stick in my mind, and there's another 8 of them to come, so don't worry, but it's when he's reprimanding Alva and he's telling her that she's the lowest of the low.
Lowest on the totem pole.
Lowest on the totem pole.
Yeah.
She's the most recent to join the company, and his eyes are just getting wider and wider and wider. And that face, I believe, or that expression, I believe he reused for Face Off.
Did it? Right, yeah,
on.
that makes sense.
Yeah.
Note to self, never challenge Nick Cage to a staring contest.
No. No. So the next one I want to note is when, this is one of my favourites as well, but I've got a feeling I'm going to say that every time. When he's sitting at his desk and you hear him go, Alva. Alva. Alva! Alva! And then it cuts to outside of his office and you see him get up and he walks into the office and jumps on the table.
Yeah.
And then he chases Alva to the women's bathroom.
Because he's nuts.
Yeah. Watching this movie, like, he started off and he wasn't exactly the most normal character in the movie. And you think, this is bizarre. But it just gets weirder. And I love that. It's so unpredictable. I was so shocked and surprised by so much of this movie.
I wonder if it was shot mostly chronologically, because it would be hard to go full insanity and then pull back on it. Or maybe it's a breeze for Nick Cage.
That's a fair point. I know he does quite often make some strange choices and could be described sometimes as a method actor.
He ate a cockroach and it was his idea.
Yeah.
Apparently he deeply regretted it and is still somewhat traumatized to this
Really?
day. He wishes he hadn't done it.
Oh, I hadn't heard that.
Yeah.
From what I heard, he seemed to be quite pleased with it. But that's the scene, so we'll get there.
Okay.
So the next scene I want to talk about is when he ate the cockroach.
Oh no, I'm so sorry.
It's okay. So that happens after he is imagining showering with Rachel.
Yeah. I mean, who hasn't imagined showering with Jennifer Beals?
Well, I haven't, because I didn't know who she was prior to this movie.
You never seen Flashdance?
No. Never
Crazy.
Seen it.
She's a welder.
Is she not a dancer?
She's a dancer as well.
She's a dancing welder.
Yeah.
All right. No, I don't know why I've never seen it.
It's great.
Sounds great. After he imagines having a shower with her, he starts getting ready for work. He looks at himself in a mirror. He touches the mirror and goes, ooh, because mirrors are really hot. It's funny, like he sort of recoils as if it had burned him, but that never comes up again. I thought that was quite funny.
And that's not part of vampire lore either.
I know. I know, but that's one of those things, like, that was random.
Yeah. The cockroach thing, though.
But then he goes into the kitchen and he eats a cockroach that was on the cooker.
Yeah.
We mentioned earlier about him and Bierman. Do you know that they didn't really get on great during the shooting of this?
Didn't know that, but I'm not at all shocked by that revelation.
Well, Nicolas Cage was being a bit difficult at one point.
Shit.
Bierman wanted him to move a little bit during filming the scene so he could get a better shot, and Cage refused for whatever reason, I don't know. But when they came to shoot a cockroach, Cage ate the cockroach. Bierman went, sorry, we didn't get it.
Oh.
He said, right, we'll do it again then. So he did it. He ate another cockroach, and then they used the first take. And Bierman was like, yeah, fuck you for not moving during that scene.
Oh, okay.
But you say he was traumatized by
it. That's what he claims now, yeah. And he was given a lot of shit from animal rights activists as well.
Well, it's not ideal.
No.
But, like, he would have eaten a chicken sandwich that morning. Like, there's,
Yeah.
where you drawing a line. I really like the scene because there's kind of, it gets to a point where it's clear that he's losing his mind and he just gets kind of worse and worse. But there's a point where he tries to shoot himself, where he's found Alva, or he's chased Alva again, I think for the second time. And then she is armed with some blank bullets, right?
Yeah.
But then Cage tries to shoot himself with it, doesn't die, and then that's when he thinks, I must be a vampire.
Yeah.
And
that's the only natural assumption to make.
Yeah. And he's so distraught by that he starts going,
yeah. Yeah. Do you know why?
Because it was written in the script.
No, because apparently the entire film, again, allegedly, this is just what I read online, but from the horse's mouth, as you put it, the entire film was kind of a series of personal challenges that Nick Cage set himself. And that was one of them. So basically, he challenged himself to, during this crying scene, he had to say the words boo-hoo, but in an emotive, real kind of way.
Yeah.
I'm not sure he achieved that.
Well, I didn't notice. You're the one that sort of nudged me and went, is he saying boo-hoo?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's how children write. Like, such a body is crying and they'll write boo-hoo.
Yeah. It's a very strange approach to this movie.
Yeah.
Like, it's like if the Big Machine or whatever had made small Nicolas Cage into big Nicolas Cage and really he was 12 years old. Like the sort of approach that a child would take to it.
Yeah.
But not in a bad way, just like in a pure way, I guess is what I'm getting at. Like,
yeah, I think I know what you mean.
Why would you challenge yourself to try and get boo-hoo into the script? Like, you
no
think,
idea.
It's a bit silly, but a lot of his acting in it, I say a lot, all of his acting in this is, you'd be forgiven for describing it as overacting. It's so large and massive, but it is interesting that he's kind of using that German expressionism in this. Like, it's kind of, I'm guessing like back in the silent film days, you had to overact really because you have to get so much more across, right?
Which brings us right back to the mimes.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah. Nosferatu is actually playing on one of the televisions, and there's definitely
German silent film.
And he's on record saying like, yeah, I took a German expressionist route with this or approach to this movie.
No shit.
Yeah. Well, I think it works mostly. Yeah. Even the points where I'm laughing, he's going boo-hoo, and it's funny.
Yeah.
Like I don't know, there's still a charm to it because I would view this very much as a comedy. The fact is that I love this. I had so much fun watching it. I was laughing at a lot of the stuff that's happening, and not ironically either. It's not like I'm going, oh, isn't this crazy? Not
like in The Room kind of a way.
Yeah.
Although you'd be forgiven for thinking that Tommy Wiseau modelled his entire acting style on Vampire's Kiss.
Also, maybe Johnny Vampire.
You've nailed it. That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. Like, The Room is fun to watch because it's really terrible.
Yeah.
And you're laughing at how bad this movie is.
But it was made with such sincerity.
Yeah. And there is an appeal to that as well. But this one, maybe I was expecting to like it ironically.
Yeah, I
but
know exactly what you mean.
I watched it and was like, no, this is just a really good movie.
Yeah.
And it's really funny. And it's just so well done. And maybe some of it I'm sort of scratching my head going, what does that mean? But it hasn't taken me long to kind of figure out what his approach is. And I think my thesis of this movie would be that I don't know if this had worked for me 30 years ago, but knowing who Cage is as an actor, as a man now with the internet and having access to all this information about him and all the interviews that he's done, I think that this totally makes sense now. I think this was way ahead of its time. Moving on from the Bahoo.
Okay, yeah, we've got some more scenes.
I've got some more scenes. I've got my final 5 scenes.
Okay.
Which all take place in the final 30 minutes of this movie, which I think when you get to that point and he's now run through the streets screaming, I'm a vampire, I'm a vampire. The last 30 minutes, I just, honestly, is some of my favourite cinema of all time, I think.
Okay.
I was glued to this. And again today, watching it, when it gets to that last half hour, it starts with him buying those plastic vampire teeth.
Yep.
He goes into that shop and it's like one of those mystic type shops where you expect, like those globes have got the electricity things and you put your hand on and the electricity purple goes on your hand and like tarot cards and things like that. And they sell fiberglass fake teeth.
Obviously.
They've got some like vampire looking teeth and they're off colour to make them look more realistic, but they're $20. And Cage at that point has run out of money because he's been conned by Rachel and Donald.
Yep.
And he's like, have you got anything cheaper? And the shopkeeper offers him the $3.95 version, which is the plastic vampire teeth that we all had when we were kids.
Yep.
And you can't say shit. You put them in, you're right. No one can understand what you're saying.
And of course, they are designed for a child's mouth as well.
Maybe Nicolas Cage's mouth is the size of a child's mouth.
It's not. They did not fit him.
Were they too small?
Yes.
I didn't notice. You notice teeth way more than I do, though.
Yeah.
Even plastic ones. He offers him the $3.95 teeth, and one of my favourite lines is such a throwaway, meaning nothing line, but the way that he delivers it, he says, I will take the plastic. Kills me. Absolutely kills me. And then you do a quick cut to the outside of the shop and he's scurrying out of the shop, tearing his plastic teeth out of the packaging. And he gets to a bench and he cannot wait to just put them in and then just open his mouth. And you could see like the relief and the kind of comfort that he's taking in doing that. And it's hysterical. And I think that's when, like, I thought it was a comedy. Like, from frame one, I thought, yeah, this is definitely a comedy.
I'm sorry, I'm just picturing him scuttling around with the teeth in.
It's so good. It's so good. But I definitely thought this was a comedy for the first hour. But when it gets to that scene, that was when I was like, there's no denying this.
This is not in question anymore.
If you've seen this movie and you've got to this point, you know that this is a comedy because he's got those teeth in, and that's when he goes to phone his therapist. and he phones Dr. Glazer and he says, hello.
It's more like
I was just wondering if we could make my next appointment a bit sooner.
Yes, no sooner.
And I'm like, mate, that killed me. And in that scene as well, another funny thing that I picked up on my second viewing today is that he's looking at a reflection of himself in the payphone. So you can see that one.
Yeah.
So he's sort of picking and choosing what he pays attention to. It's very interesting about what he's perceiving as reality.
Or he's got rabies. He's only hallucinating some of the time.
But at that point, he's just full vampire now, isn't he? And he's full Nosferatu because he saw that movie. And he goes into the nightclub.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And he's got the fake teeth in still. And he punches the bouncer and gets into the nightclub. And then he sees that woman who's sniffing cocaine because it's the 80s. Because drug addiction.
Yep, yuppies.
Yeah. Because Philo facts.
Uh-huh.
And he sort of does that thing where he sort of rolls his arm around and he's proper acting like a silent vampire, silent era vampire. And I think that's very funny. And he kills her like in a quite a jarring way, because this is I think it's a very funny film, but there's also some really dark stuff that happens in it.
Oh, well, he sexually assaults Alva before any of this happens as well.
Absolutely. And then he kills someone, and it's like, it's really interesting because it's like it's dealing with something really dark and something with like really like severe consequences. And like mental illness it's no laughing matter. Like, we're not laughing at mental illness here, which is what this film is about.
We're just laughing at Nicolas Cage.
Yeah, but it's the uncomfortableness as well, some of it. And he kills her, and then that's where he sees with his fake teeth. Yep, presumably. And then he sees Rachel again. And that's when she's sort of there with Donald. And that's where I sort of said earlier that where my thought about the conning came in. So he knows her. He's seen her before. She's a real person. Yeah. He hasn't imagined her, but he's imagined a lot of their interactions. Yeah. And she sort of brushes him off, right? And he sort of says, "You're breaking up with me. You're breaking up with me after I sucked that broad's bones dry." I believe is what he says, something like that. Excellent. And so he's killed someone, and then he leaves the club and he's walking around all night, I guess, because the sun starts to come up and he's like, "Oh no, sun!" And then that's when he kicks that pallet and picks up that wooden stick, and he proceeds to ask members of the public to kill him because he's a vampire. Some of that's real, shot on long lens from a distance, and he's just interacting with public. I couldn't tell you which scenes exactly are, but there's a lot of that stuff where in the last 15, 20 minutes where he's just walking through New York as a crazy person. I think people that saw him, I mean,
this is New York though. Like, are people really going to stop and stare, or are they just going to be like, "Oh, another crazy dude"?
Part of me wants to move to New York now. Because
no, you don't like rats.
Well, no, that's true. You know that question where someone says to you, if you had a time machine, where would you go? In what period of history would you visit? And for me, I think it would be between the months of August and October in 1987. So I could watch Nicolas Cage walking around the street with fake vampire teeth in, a bit of palate, and asking me to kill him.
Or legging it down the street going, "I'm a vampire!"
Kills me.
Go on.
He approaches, I've got 2 more to go. Yep. So he approaches he sees a church and he approaches the parishioners outside the church.
Oh, yeah.
"Your rosary beads, take them out and put the cross upon me like this. The cross, the crucifix, me vampire." And then he runs away when he hears the church bells. "Christ, the torches of the damned." Oh, God. And then you've got that final like 10 minutes that he's imagining with his therapist, where he's just fully lost it. He starts having a conversation with
no one,
a concrete pillar. Yeah. He crashes into it. There's a couple of bits of slapstick in this as well, like when he's chasing Alva and he runs into that fountain and sort of goes backwards. He also runs into this concrete pillar, which he has a conversation with for 10 minutes. And it's funny because it's cutting from him imagining a conversation he's having with his therapist while he's holding that stick to him in quote unquote real life, where he's just a crazy person on the streets of New York. And there's people walking past in the background kind of looking him up and down. Yeah. And I'm guessing those are real people. Like, is that Nicolas Cage?
Is he falling on hard times?
Yeah. But I think it was me though when I saw someone like that and go, "Oh, that's weird," and then see it was Nicolas Cage and go, that makes sense. Yeah. Yeah, it's funny because a lot of this film, I think, I said earlier that Cage is the sort of person that thinks any reading is correct, your interpretation of the art is not incorrect. But he does say that he does view this movie as someone that's losing their mind because they can't fulfill their romantic, like they really want to be in love and have a relationship. And he's so desperate to get that, and he doesn't, that it drives him insane. Right. And because of that last scene, the imaginary Dr. Glazer, introduces him to imaginary Sharon.
Oh, yeah. Oh, God, I'd forgotten about that.
Yeah. And it's like his dream woman. She loves long weekends in the country. And he quotes some Wordsworth at her, and she goes, "Oh yes, that's Wordsworth," and he's like, "Incredible," and then it cuts to real Nicolas Cage, and he goes, "Ugh."
Yeah.
So good. It's so good.
Is that it? Do you have any more scenes?
Not really. I don't. I've got a couple of other things I want to go through.
I'm very disappointed you haven't mentioned his coffin yet.
Oh, right. Okay.
Which, of course, is an upturned couch.
Yeah, resting on books.
Yeah.
And I loved it. It didn't click with me straight away that it was a coffin. I saw he turned the couch upside down, and I thought, that's an interesting base. And then when he gets in it later and he sort of creaks it open, and he shuts it back down, he props it up with books, he's got pillows on the floor.
Peter.
And we need to do a vampire season. And then there's something very funny to me about someone who thinks they're a vampire setting an alarm clock.
Well, vampires have shit to do as well.
I know. It's just, that's the sort of thing you would see in the What We Do in the Shadows TV show.
Well, yeah, just because you're undead doesn't mean you don't also want to be prompt.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know why I forgot about that. But like I said, there is so much to mention in this. Like I could probably talk about every frame of this movie. There must be a podcast, when they're like, we watch a minute of the movie and then we talk about it for an hour. I could do that, I think, about this. Maybe we should. Our companion show, maybe. I'm going to bring that back. I've got, what do you think, right? I've got a question for you.
Okay.
Why, we haven't really talked about why he's so aggressive and trying to put Alva to such difficult work. Like, he says to her, you need to find a Der Spiegel file.
Mm-hmm.
And the client who he talks to doesn't give a fuck about it. The client's like, whatever, like, just, it's fine, there's no rush. But then he's so determined to find that file and he's putting the pressure on Alva to do it. But why do you think that is?
I don't know. I guess, like, to me, what fits in with the whole sort of 80s yoppie thing is also, like, delusions of grandeur and power trip.
Yeah. So it's just a way for him to try and control his staff.
Yeah, that's what I saw it as. And he sort of explains, like, he sees her as the lowest on the totem pole, so he treats her as such.
Yeah. It's funny because I don't know why I did this, but I Googled what is a translation of Der Spiegel. And from German to English, it's mirror.
Oh.
And I thought that was interesting because obviously mirrors... Oh,
that's got to be intentional then.
It has to be, right?
Wow.
Like, he's searching for a mirror. He's searching for his identity, question. Obviously use of mirrors in movies and movie language, and there's probably a bunch of different ways you could view that. But for me, particularly in this film, and you've got the scene going back to when he can't see his reflection, whether it's a toxic relationship or not, and he's losing his personality via that, or he just doesn't know who he is and he's searching for his identity, and that's why he's so like, Alva, you fucking need to find this file.
Yeah. Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
I think that sort of adds more credence to the fact that this is actually a really well-made film.
Yeah.
It's not just like a slapdash silly comedy.
No,
I love that. I
think it's way smarter than like I said, if I'd have seen this 30 years ago, I would have probably written this off as fucking weird.
Yeah.
Never going to watch this again. But it's smart. Like, I think it's super funny and super well thought out. And like I said, there's multiple readings you can have with this film. We've discussed a few of them. Yeah, it's definitely way more interesting than I think. I don't know. It's a cult film, isn't it? So a lot of people have discovered this and probably have a similar view to us and have kind of discovered it and gone, oh, wow, that's really cool and smart. So maybe we're proper late to the game. We are, because this came out 40 years ago and it's the first time we've seen it. But happy we have now.
Yeah. I must admit, when you said that you wanted to do a Nick Cage season and then you showed me the lineup and I was like, okay.
Really?
For some of them, yeah.
Okay.
Some of them I'm not mega thrilled about. Some of them are very you films.
That's fair.
But I was quite keen to see this one, especially when I realised I'd never seen it before. Like I said, I spent a large portion of my adult life thinking I had. And then, obviously, after 2 very short minutes. I was like, nope, this is all new to me.
It's funny, isn't it? Because the first 2-3 minutes, it's just a very kind of bland, if you like cityscapes and clarinet music going on.
Yeah.
And it goes into his therapy session and he's doing the accent. You're like, oh, he's doing a weird accent. And it just gets crazier from there. But the first few minutes is kind of ordinary and you're not quite sure where it's going to go.
Yeah.
I thought so anyway.
Yeah, I can see that.
Do you think then, if there's a reading of this film where he's got rabies or he's just going mad, whatever take you've got, he's clearly hallucinating some, if not all, of the events of this movie. What do you think he's imagining and what do you think is real? Do you think any of the Rachel stuff is real? We think that she's a real person, right?
I think potentially he maybe went on a date with her, like the first date that they have, and then I think everything beyond that is imagined, which is why when he bumps into her in the club, I don't know, is there any sort of familiarity that crosses her face? Like, does she recognize him?
Yeah, I think I think it's clear that they've met before.
Yeah, so their paths have crossed, but I think everything beyond that is just in his head.
Yeah. And I think a lot of the therapist stuff is actually happening. I think all of the other stuff is happening. Definitely the interactions he has with Rachel, and it's quite clear, some of it's ambiguous, but some of it's dead obvious, like when he's handing the coffee over to nobody on the bed.
Yeah.
And he starts shaking and it spills on the bed. The shower when there's clearly no one there. Like you picked up on earlier with the shots of Jennifer Beals? Yeah. Jennifer Beals when she has the vampire teeth and when she doesn't have them. That's a good visual clue.
Yeah.
I think there's enough in here to sort of let you know what's real and what isn't, objectively speaking, but also there's a lot of stuff you could just have your own theories on. The newspaper shows that there was a death in the nightclub, so you would assume that that's real.
That's definitely real, and he definitely assaulted Alva as well.
Yeah.
I think if I've got any criticisms of this film, it's potentially that. I think we don't really see it, which is a plus, but the threat and the spectre of this sexual violence does kind of hang over the rest of the film.
Yeah.
And it makes me a little bit more uneasy laughing at it.
I think that's fair. I think
they could have whipped that out. He could have just scared the shit out of her. That would have been enough.
Yeah.
That would have been a fireable offense at a minimum. He wouldn't have needed to physically assault her. I think the result would have been the same.
Yeah. No, I think you're right. I think because this film is, I want to say, for me, it's a weird one, isn't it? Because it's kind of a light-hearted, silly view on mental illness and toxic behaviour, which sounds weird.
Yeah.
But in a weird way, it is taken seriously. But I think that moment is not played necessarily for the seriousness that it is.
Yeah, I mean, it's not played for laughs.
No.
But I don't think it really belongs in this movie.
I think I'm with you on that. Yeah, I think you could probably whip that out and it wouldn't make any difference because he's so... up to that point, he's been so insane, and just from chasing her into the women's toilets to turning up at her house saying, I bought soup.
Yeah, she absolutely has a strong case for workplace harassment lawsuit without any of the additional stuff, you know?
Yeah, definitely.
And I think if this film was made today, which it wouldn't be, I don't think you could ever replicate this.
No.
But I think maybe if it was made today, that stuff wouldn't have been in it. I don't know.
Yeah, or at least done in a different way.
Yeah.
I guess that, I think all of the other stuff definitely does happen. Mm-hmm. But in a movie like this, you could argue that maybe that doesn't really happen and that's in his head as well.
Maybe.
But I think one of the films that I thought about, and because of you're not sure on exactly what's real and what's not, I thought about almost immediately, actually, when we started watching this, was American Psycho.
It's funny you should say that.
He's got the Bateman about him.
Do you know why?
Because Bret, Easton, Ellis watched Vampires Kiss and loved it. Because
Christian Bale used Peter Lowe as the basis for Patrick Bateman.
And that's why I love this movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? Sometimes you watch a movie and you just think of something immediately. And usually when that happens to me, that will be a pretty unique thought, because I think that's quite personal for me anyway. Like,
yeah.
I've got my own reference points and my own favourites and things that I think about all the time. But immediately thinking about American Psycho, yeah, it's a common comparison, and interesting that Bale was a fan, I assume.
Allegedly.
Yeah.
Allegedly. Again, it's a thing I read online, so take it with a grain of salt, perhaps. But it has to be true, right? It has to be.
Yeah, I think so. I think another one that I thought about is Joker. I mean, you have, if you're looking at it as a person who's slowly losing their mind, then you've got that.
And the scenes that are in his head, but that we see play out. Yeah,
there's also a question mark in that movie about what's actually happening and what isn't. So that was another thing for me.
Yeah.
Along the similar lines, I thought about Fight Club.
Okay.
You've obviously got the thing that happens in that, which we're not going to spoil.
You're just naming every incel's favourite movies. I'm not saying they're not excellent movies, because they are.
Yeah, you're right.
But they've been misunderstood and embraced by a problematic crowd.
Yeah, it's funny how the problematic crowd would gravitate towards movies about people losing their minds. Funny.
Relatable, perhaps.
Funny that.
Yeah.
What about May? Does she lose her mind in May?
Oh, yeah.
I thought about May.
Yeah.
One more, Jacob's Ladder, because...
Oh, yeah.
Well, Jacob's vampire.
Jacob's bat.
Jacob's bat. Jacob's David Hyde Pierce bat.
Yeah, I can see that. Good comparisons. Yeah, when I say it made me think of The Addiction, it was in the loosest way possible. Just in that it's a vampire movie, but it's not really. From a similar sort of era.
Yeah.
Very different movies, though.
Yeah, but wouldn't make a terrible double bill. If you want to do...
You'd have to start with The Addiction.
Yeah, obviously.
Get bombed out and then pull out the Nick Cage hilarity.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. I've got some closing thoughts on this.
Okay.
Sometimes when we're watching a movie, I think about, can I imagine a sequel to something if it doesn't have a sequel? Could I imagine a recasting? Sometimes we do that. And sometimes I think, what other movies could this share a universe with? And I thought about that with this one. And I thought to myself, wouldn't it be funny if in this reality, in this Vampire's Kiss world, he's obviously, our reading of it is that he's not actually a vampire. He's imagining everything. Mm-hmm. He's insane. Yeah. But wouldn't it be funny if vampires did actually exist in this in this world? I think that would make it even funnier for me.
Okay.
That vampires exist, but he's not one still.
Yeah.
That, to me, is very funny. No, I just imagine Blade just like,
oh my God,
just doing a handbrake turn to Peter Lowe and just kicking his head off, his head exploding. So yeah, shared universe with Blade would please me, I think.
Yeah, all right.
Or, and this straight off the top of my dome, this could be perhaps a prequel to Face Off, and he's lost his mind and becomes Castor Troy. Maybe we'll pick this up in another episode.
Peter Lowe, I mean, John Travolta was considered for that role, so...
I think it was Cage both auditions who put John Travolta mask on. I think so I was this is not what I expected. I was expecting a silly B-movies 80s horror movie about an actual vampire.
Yeah, me too.
And I thought it was going to have some stupid scenes in that we were going to kind of go or maybe
the Stuart Lee laugh.
Yeah. And maybe we'd enjoy some of it ironically. But I did not expect it to be as smart and well thought out as it is.
Yeah.
And as just frankly batshit insane that it is.
I just didn't expect to laugh as much as I did. No.
This destroys me.
Yeah.
Like, I thought it was hilarious when watching it. I probably laughed even more watching it today on my own. Like, and there's some things that were just so well done comedically that I think this is such a good movie. I can't wait to own this and put it into regular rotation. But yeah, I think for me, it works mostly because of his legacy that we have now. And we can look back on and recognize what he's doing. There's more context There's more Cage context.
I can understand why he butted heads with the director, though.
Yeah, I think so. Can you imagine working with it, though?
No.
Like, we enjoy watching it, but practically,
It'd
if
be
you're
like
just
trying
the
to rein in a
sparks-
toddler.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh.
Exactly.
I know you picked it because we're going chronological this season, but I think this was an excellent one to start on.
Thank you. Like I said, I could have gone earlier, but I really wanted to watch this one.
I'm glad you did.
Yeah.
I'm glad you chose this.
Well, next time we're moving on from the 80s, Nicolas Cage.
Mm-hmm.
We're heading over to the 90s now, and we're going to watch The Rock.
Of course we fucking are.
Yeah, because it's the greatest movie ever made.
Oh, right. He wasn't in The Shining.
Nicolas Cage was in The Shining, wasn't he? Yeah, so we've there's a few there that we've skipped. We're obviously not doing Leaving Las Vegas and Trapped in Paradise. We're not doing that. We're not doing It Could Happen to You. Do you remember that lottery movie?
Oh, vaguely.
Yeah. But we're going straight into action Cage. So we started with a horror, sort of losing my mind comedy.
Yeah, with like the physicality of early Jim Carrey.
Yeah. That's a really good point. I wish we'd discussed that earlier. Jim Carrey, yeah, we'll talk about that in a wrap show.
Okay.
But yeah, next up, The Rock.